In today's lesson, we're going to be talking about how to do statistical analysis with a dataset in Google Sheets. Obviously, it would take forever to calculate the mean or the mode or the standard deviation by hand like we did yesterday, especially when we have so many data points. So what we're going to do is I'm going to show you how to do named ranges and then to do operations in Google Sheets. When we're given our data points, the first thing I'm going to do is just click on this column here to select all the data points, and I'm going to turn this into a named range. So that named range is going to include everything that gets put into this column. So I'll click on data and then I'll click on named ranges. As you can see, I don't have any named ranges yet. I'm going to call this just dataset. You can call it whatever you like. It's telling you that this dataset includes everything on sheet 1, column A. Then when we want to find the mean, I've already given you here the name of the function, so average, and then you have parentheses. All functions in Sheets begin with the equal sign, which tells Sheets that you're starting a function. And then you can just type average, you start your parentheses, and here's where the named range comes in handy. I can simply type dataset, and it includes everything in this column. Then I make sure, just like you do anytime you're doing any sort of coding or talking to computers, you close that parentheses. Once you do that, it goes ahead and fills in the average for you. The function's names are given for you here, so you can find the median in the same way. You type the equal sign, and you fill it in with the data set. So you can say the median, the middle number in this data set is 5. Just like before, you can find the mode, automatically will fill in the name of the named range for you, as is highlighted over here. Minimum and maximum are the same, so you can type equals max. Okay, so I'm just gonna continue doing this. So sum will add up all the numbers in this column for you, so you don't have to do it yourself or with a calculator. If you want to find the total amount of data points in the set, you can do count, and it will tell you that there are 49 values. Now notice it does not include this here, which is not a numerical value. There's 49 total numerical values here, as you can see, and Sheets already knows that. Count if is a conditional, so as you can see here, it tells you the range, which we're just going to use data set as our range. Then we have to put in a criterion. A criterion means that's what we're looking for. So count only if, so we're trying to find the amount of numbers that are higher than 4.5. Count if the numbers, quotation mark, are greater than 4.5. And then we close that quotation mark and we close the parentheses, always super important. So this tells us there are 27 numbers in the data set that are larger than 4.5. So I can use the countif function in many ways. Now I'm going to see how many numbers are lower than 4.5. There are 19 data points that are smaller than 4.5. I'm going to do it again to see how many numbers are equal to 4.5. There are 3. Now let's talk about how to find the variance. When we're finding the variance, that means we're subtracting the data point every single time by the mean. So before I do that, I'm going to take the mean and I'm going to name it as a range again. So I go to data, name to ranges, and then I call this, I'm just going to name it data mean. Okay, so this value now becomes data mean. Now I can do my variance equation. I tell Sheets that it's an equation by typing equals, then I type minus, I type $sign telling me that I'm selecting a cell, A, which says I'm selecting column A, and 2, which says I'm selecting row 2. So you can see that it selected this value at column A, row 2. Comma, and then my second value, which I already named as data mean. So it now subtracts and finds the difference between those. I don't have to do that every single time though. I can click on this cell, then I click on this little button here, and I drag it down for every single value in the data set. You can see that automatically calculates for every value, subtracting the mean from these data points over here. So once I've done that, I'm going to now name this range here as variance. Because when I'm finding the standard deviation, I take the variance and then I square it. So what I'm going to do here in this cell now is repeat by creating a function, and then I type in variance raised to the second power. So it takes this number and it squares it. And again, I click on this button and I drag it down for the entire amount of values. And you can see that it takes the value and squares it every time. Then I click on this row, so I'm going to name it again, and I'm going to call it var_square. Simply representing that all these values are the square of the variances. And then I'm going to repeat what I did over here using the sum function, and I'm going to type sum of var_square to find the total amount of adding all of those squared values. When I find the average of this sum here, so remember that we find the average of var_square, we know that our cell count is 49. So first of all, I'm going to name this my sum square. And then when I go to this row here, I can simply type in, okay, it's an equation, and I divide sum square by 49 to find the average. Once I've found the average here, I can go ahead and take the square root of that average to find the standard deviation. So I take this average and I'm going to just rename this as av_square, why not? And then in here, I type the function square root the average square, and that is my standard deviation for the data set. So what I've done is followed the steps for finding standard deviation that we did by hand yesterday, and I've just used Google Sheets to do it for me for a very large data set, which is super nice. The last thing you need to be able to do is create a chart of your data. So we go ahead and make sure that we've selected this. We're going to try and create the chart that gives us the most information about our data as possible. In this case, with so many data points, that's probably going to be a histogram. So Sheets will automatically create a bar chart for you, but as you can see, that doesn't tell you a lot because there's so many values here that this information is just not useful. So we're going to go ahead and change the chart type by going down to Other and clicking on Histogram. Once we do that, we can see that it's chosen some pretty weird bin sizes. The bin sizes are from 1 to 2.29, which is just kind of, I don't know, that's not very useful or informational. So we're going to go to Customize, click on the histogram option, and we can see that it's decided on doing its own thing, but we're going to make bucket sizes, or bin sizes, of 2. And this tells us a little bit more about our data. Now we can easily look at it and say most of the data falls between the values of 5 and 7.